represent Warriors. and number 5. Stop short of the goal line. Here's a third and goal tap for the Warriors. That's the end of our third quarter. Warriors taking the lead with a score of 20, Sharks 16. forward pass. Incomplete. Walk out. Second and about 12 for the South Florida Warriors. And then Neil Fruitt making the tackle for the Carolina Sharks. And anytime you turn out with the stop for the Warriors. Brings us second and about 15 for the Colorado Sharks.
Talofa, olo e mai mo mai le tautua le ala talua le KVZKTV, Pango America Samoa. You are watching KVZKTV Channel 2, Pango American Samoa.
Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Welcome to Voice of the Sea.
This time on Voice of the Sea, we catch up with do-it-yourself visionary and engineer Tony Lucere to see what aquaponics can look like in your front yard. Tony created a home aquaponics system complete with wind turbines he designed himself.
Oh,
Hi, Tony.
Hi, nice to meet you.
How you doing?
Yeah, this is my aquaponics. I grow everything we can here. Tomatoes, strawberries, all the different herbs, some broccoli, some arugula, lettuces. This was our lawn. And that lawn used to take up water and we used to mow it.
So Tony, why did you start this project? I mean, why did you turn your front yard into
this
an aquaponics system?
Yes. Well, I initially started with my wind turbines and my wind turbine design. And what they were is a way to produce your own power in a residential setting. A lot of people, they think they can't do it. Here we have a lot of salt, so solar is not as easy to accommodate here. And so I looked into doing wind turbines. And once I did that, the wind turbines took me to people who needed remote power. And I started seeing they had these little systems here and there. I go, I could do that. And so I took the lawn out and I built this. And I wanted to show that people without an acre or 2 or 3 acres of land could do this in their own front yard. So it gets rid of that excuse, well, I live in a neighborhood, so I can't. You have something like this. If everybody does it, then we all can take care of each other. My next door neighbor may grow something that I don't have, papaya, which I don't have, and so I'll trade him fish or lettuce or something like that for that. We're getting our bananas from Ecuador, and we grow them here in Maui. It's crazy, and how can that possibly be cost effective or even intelligent? And so if we can grow our own food here, and the average person can do it without backbreaking labor, I spend 5 minutes out there a day. It's not a big deal. So if we can get people interested, and I ask as many people as who want to walk through it, and I'll take time to explain it to them because I think it's important that they can do it. And once they figure that hey, I have the power to do it, then they empower themselves, and getting to the children is the key, because if they come at home and they say, Mommy, look what I learned, and then and put the parents on the spot a little bit. And how the system works is you have your fish down here. And this is about 1,200 gallon of water. And this water, they do their business in the water. And then that water gets transferred up through these filters that I've made. This is much like an oil filter on a car. And it takes the solids out of the water. Once the water's been cleaned of the solids, it goes into these bioreactors here that then transfer the water along. It rains down onto river rock. And it transfers the water along the green canals and goes into the manifold at the end. Then initially comes through the strawberries, and these knuckles here regulate the water level in these tubes, and then the water comes into here and fills them up. And so there's no dirt in this system, and it's just the roots.
Oh, wow.
And so the root takes up all the nutrients.
And can I stick my hand in the water?
Oh, absolutely.
And so the water's kind of a brownish color.
Mm-hmm. This is a taro that I'm telling you was this big when we started, and this is about
can we look at what it looks like
yeah,
underneath?
Yeah, sure, certainly.
Oh, the view you never get.
Maybe like that for a root ball.
Wow.
It's happy. And see those white roots show that they're happy and they're aerated. They're getting everything they want.
And what would they look like if they were unhappy?
They're brown. Yeah. Yeah, that's when they're not happy. So some of them aren't as happy. This isn't as happy. And you can see the color difference. And then we put these in here, and this actually picks up, it's a matrix for some of the bacteria. Yeah, so I mean, this is what you can do in a 20 by 20.
20 by 20.
20 by 20.
Wow, it's very inspiring.
I wish we had more strawberries, but my kids come out here every day and they pick them. So we don't have any left. They've been picked over.
So the fish are feeding in the water, and that water is directly pumping up to the strawberries. The
Yes.
strawberries filter it the first
into
time,
here, yes.
and then it goes through these series of tables.
Yeah, these tables all fill up randomly and they discharge randomly. Yeah, and so you can see these tomatoes here. This is about a month of growth here. We grew these from seed, and they're just now starting to flower. And later on, I'll show you my wind turbines, which I've designed. And they're going to be incorporated in this system. Right now, I have a 1/3 horsepower pump running this whole thing, and I'm going to replace that with the wind turbines.
Wow, so
you're
it'll
gonna
be
see. It'll be completely off the grid. The only thing that I don't do now is I am feeding the fish with a commercial grade feed, and we're going to eventually grow our own feed for them, duckweed. So we're hoping that works out.
How do you know that your system's functioning properly?
We initial testing, I was testing every day initially to get the water right. The the ammonia level on, I think all these systems spike because the fish do it. And it's almost like the ballpark, if you build it, they will come. Well, if you have the ammonia, then you'll get the bacteria in these biofilters that will then convert the ammonia into nitrites, and then from nitrites, another bacteria into nitrates. So it's once you get all that, then you get plants that are happy.
And so can you tell just by walking out here that everything's functioning properly?
I can just look at the plants. Yeah, if there's too much flow, these will overflow. There's water up inside here. These, if there's not enough flow, these won't cycle, so they won't go up and down. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I spend about 5 minutes a day out here, and that's enough to take care of all the maintenance. I have some sediment filters here. When this filter gets full, unlike changing a filter on the car, I reverse these valves and I backflush. I take the energy that's going up to here and I backflush this into these filters. And how these filters work is the dirty water comes in here and slowly fills up the barrel. The cleanest water is at the top, the heavy fall, and the cleanest water goes to there, the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. By the time you get to the fourth barrel, the water is relatively clean. Then you turn the valves off, the water cycles back into the tank, and that's how you clean it. What you're left with is a kind of a goo here that is a fish emulsion that is really good for growing in dirt. So my neighbor grows in dirt, so nothing goes to waste.
Nothing goes to waste. And about how much water do you have in circulation at any time in this system?
Right now we have 2,500 gallons.
And I know you harvest the plants, but do you also harvest your fish?
Well, you can. Unfortunately, we're starting to name them. And it's difficult to eat something you've named. So, but yes, you can. We have about 120 fish in there. And they range anywhere from that big to little guys.
What kind of fish do we have in
They're
here?
tilapia. There they go.
Tilapia is one of those species that, you know, it's introduced here in Hawaii,
Yes.
so people sometimes have a bad feeling about it. Can you tell us why tilapia is good in this application?
Well, tilapia are very hardy, and you're going to need that. Not so much for the temperature, because the temperature is fairly stable. It's about 74 degrees in the water. But the tilapia have a wide range of pH and ammonia tolerances that they can do it. In fact, they can actually live in brackish, semi-brackish water. So even if your pond isn't the cleanest and all that, you're not going to have a lot of fish die off. They also have a catfish, but they have their own issues, and barramundi, which I'm going to look into.
Oh.
So barramundi is the next thing we're going to look into and see
From
if they can
Australia,
go.
right?
I would imagine yes. It sounds like they're from Australia. I personally don't know for a fact, but we're going to try to introduce them and see if we can get them to coexist. We've been real happy. We haven't lost one fish, not one casualty out of all the fish. You know, it's a funny thing. We actually spend much less time watching television, and we sit out here as a family with a little flame and we listen to the water and the whole bit, and it's really nice. It's better for our family. So it's a positive in that way too.
Do you mind if I ask the cost of setting up a system like
Well, I
this?
built everything myself and designed it all myself, so the labor's not in there. But Something like this, we had an initial budget of $2,000 and we exceeded it by a little bit, as you can see. But I would say we're probably somewhere in the $3,500 range.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what you have here is not only practical, it's a really beautiful setup, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of it was kind of, you know, pretty stuff too, yeah. You know, that's set up over there where we sit, you know, in the rock and everything. If you wanted to do it bare bones, yeah, you could do it a lot cheaper. I run a single 1/3 horsepower pump.
A 1/3 horsepower pump.
Cost me about $1 a day.
Wow.
Okay, now I hope to get rid of that $1 a day with my wind turbines, which I'd like to show you.
The University of Hawaii's Sea Grant College program focused on Hawaii's coasts and its communities through sustainable development, safe seafood supply, sustainable coastal tourism, hazard resilience, and healthy coastal ecosystems. Hawaii's Sea Grant.
I became interested in building vertical axis wind turbines, okay? And so I did a little bit of research and I thought that a lot of the systems they had were flawed. And so I decided to make my own. And what I was using initially for blades, which we'll see later, are PVC pipe, which I would cut into 1/3 pieces.
way.
That's PVC, that's a pipe cut into 1/3. And what I decided to go with after that is high density polyethylene.
And this is, it's heavy.
Well, yeah, now pick the two up at the same time, and you'll notice this is quite a bit lighter. Now pick that one up, yeah, so you feel it. So what I decided was, instead of using the PVC pipe, which has issues with UV, they degrade in UV, I built this tool to make my own blades, and what this does is you heat the plastic up, and you put it in flat, and it's like a waffle maker. And then you make your waffles. All right, and so that's how you do it. And then these are water cooled, so they keep the same temperature, and you're able to make these.
Oh. And so how did you build this metal piece?
I did a CAD design, and I took it over to Precision Water Cutting in Lahaina, and they cut the pieces and welded it together.
This mechanism is going to cool and help you to shape the polyethylene into the blade, but
Correct.
How do you heat it up?
That's a good question. It wouldn't fit in the oven, so I had to make my own oven.
Oh
and
my
so what I
gosh.
did was I took an old refrigerator and I repurposed it, and this is, as far as I know, Maui's largest convection oven. So what happens is I have a heating element in here, and I have a blower here, which blows hot air throughout here. I get the polyethylene up around 240 degrees. It gets pliable enough to then go into the mold. It'll hold 50 blanks at a time. And then they go in hot, you wear gloves, because it is, and you shove them in, and then you do the process where you do it. Now see, this one right now is it's cold, so it won't take the mold. And then there's a water tank in here that keeps the temperature constant.
Did you experiment around with the blade shape before you
Well,
made
I did
this
these, and I knew
model?
approximately what I wanted. And then I'll show you the results outside.
Wind turbines.
Wind turbines. I built these to harness the wind here, and we have plenty of it. And I found that solar here is difficult because the salt corrodes them. And so they have difficulty lasting the 10 years that they're warranted. But these here I've been running for 4 years, and we haven't had any problems with them. Right now, these are not connected to the grid. These are just test turbines. But you can see we have wind of about, I'd say it's about 8 miles an hour right now.
So that device up there, it's
Yeah, it's linked to a computer and then tells me what it is. These have been spinning for about 4 years. Now, I have the record for Maui because no vertical axis wind turbine has lasted more than a year in Maui.
Well, that was actually going to be my first question, because mostly here we see the pinwheel style wind turbines.
Right, the propeller kind, the bird choppers, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
They have a couple inherent problems. Number one, they're more efficient, so I'm going to give them their due up front. But number two, they have to be facing the wind at all times. So if you're the wind, They always have to
Sure.
come back to you. The problem with that is the wind, as you can feel here, is gusty. It comes from different directions. And in the time it takes for it to orient itself, they get vibration on the tip of the blades, and that's where the cavitation and the vibration comes from. So they're loud. Anytime you have something like that, you're constantly working the material, and eventually some of them fail. These right here are in harmony with nature. They don't seem to have that problem. These are called drag units, and not because they're a drag, but because it's like a swimmer. And they cup the air and they move it. Unlike an airplane wing, which is the type that Maui Electric has, which is called a lift unit, and it has an airplane wing and it actually can go faster than the speed of the wind. This, if it can get to a 1-to-1 with the wind, you're doing great. So these have been great.
Turn your love of the ocean into a lifelong career. Join NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as we unlock the secrets in the deep oceans, track rapidly moving storms, model climate trends, protect and preserve our marine resources, and so much more. It's all in a day's work at NOAA. Find a career that makes a world of difference, enriching life through science, service, and stewardship. NOAA.
You're watching Voice of the Sea. Pound for pound, or I guess
dollar for dollar.
wind speed per wind speed, these are going to generate less electricity.
Only because, if you have a circle and you have the wind blowing in a single direction, only 1/3 of the blades are in power. As opposed to if you have a propeller, all of the propellers are in power at once. So they have less surface area into the wind at any one time. The trade-offs, absolutely dead quiet. There's no noise. There's no vibration from these. That's the trade-off. So would you rather have something that made a lot of noise and you only had one, or you had three and they made no noise and you don't even know they're up there? So a rack like this, these are different ones. I don't have them all operating right now, but a rack like this would be enough power to power my home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the one that's spinning is the same setup
It's the same.
as
This is a 3-blade.
Okay.
And these are 5-blade.
Why is there this piece in the center? Why is it in two parts?
Okay, that's a perfect question. Perfect question. Okay, initially the first generation, this is second generation. First generation the blades went from the top all the way to the bottom. As they spun, centrifugal force pulled the blade out, and they would actually come out about that far. They'd actually, fatten up an inch or so, and that was a real issue. So I realized that the materials I was using couldn't sustain that much length, 60 inches. So I chopped it in half, and then I splayed it where this is 60 degrees off of this. So the top cage and the bottom cage are out of sync with each other. And what that does is it gives you a smoother, instead of the wind pushing and then the next one comes in, think of a Harley Davidson at a stoplight, boom, 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 and think of a Honda, right? Because there's more cylinders. This would basically be more cylinders by splitting it and splaying it.
And because it's offset like that.
Yes.
Is what you're
Now
saying.
these here, I'll stop one of these. These are actually 2 cages in one. So you have a top cage and a bottom cage, and you can adjust them any way you want. And this design is better for a module type build, because you can take this and you can go 4 high, you can go 1 high or 3 high. So this is actually the design that we're going with.
And I noticed you just stopped that with your bare hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. You can't hurt yourself with these. My kids used to ride their bikes around these when they were down on the ground. And so unlike a propeller, which will hurt you, these are very, very safe.
Wow.
Now I wouldn't necessarily want to get in between the two of them, but shy of that, not so bad.
And so I hear you talking about a lot of different designs that you've tried.
Yeah,
and
this is second generation. I'm up to the 5th generation.
And how did you go about that experimentation process?
I built a wind turbine. I built a wind tunnel, 1/12 scale model, which I now hope to build at the college next summer, a full scale size, and I can show you that later. But that I would build little miniatures and then test them out in miniature. Then I would build them 1/4 scale, 1/2 scale, and then finally full scale.
And did you talk to people along the way or
No.
read about?
No, this is all my own designs. Yeah, I don't want to be polluted by somebody else's failure. Because if somebody had a really good one, we'd all be buying them right now. So no, I pretty much I go on my own designs.
And what about the conversion to power? So you have these things spinning around.
These are easy. I have a gearbox that I'm currently formulating or putting together right now that puts 3 of these 3 cells. The base of it goes into a gearbox, and all the energy from the 3 wind turbines goes into a single turbine gearbox, and then a single generator is then attached to it. And that can be placed very easily. These pop out in 5 minutes, so you could put a cage down on somebody's roof or their trellis like this. You can pop in the different components and hook it up, and literally in a half an afternoon or so, you could have it up and running.
So what would you tell somebody like me who's maybe not as mechanically inclined? Like, where would I start?
Average homeowner to build, unlike the aquaponics, I think they could do that a little easier. These are more difficult because the angle of attack and everything like that is really, these have been pretty fine-tuned at this point. Again, it's been 4 years. So, but I have put a program out to Molokai that I would be willing to cut the patterns and the blades and send them over there, and they could assemble and install as a program to kind of get some jobs over there and such. So we're working on a lot of different things.
So this knowledge is moving out.
Oh yeah, I'm going to allow a lot of this knowledge here, because this right here, these are fairly efficient. The final ones I'm going to do, I'll probably end up marketing it at one point.
Your whole house it's a giant science experiment.
It's a giant science experiment, you know, burn ratios and things like that down below. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
I'm very impressed. I think aesthetically, the things that you're showing they're just beautiful.
Yeah, they're kind of fun. Those are actually more graceful, but they're less powerful. So we're going to have to, find a happy medium, like with the fish and the plants, and that's what these are. These will end up. These are 110 pounds each. They will end up made out of all polyethylene. They're only 70 pounds. These over here, forgot this. These over here, if you can get a low shot down there, a really low shot with the sun at your back, those are magnetic levitated bearings. So these are floating on a magnetic cushion. You'll just notice that there's a little tiny gap in between the round plastic and the square plastic.
Wow.
Kind of cool, huh? So I'm playing around with both mechanical bearings and magnetic levitation bearings. And they're very, very powerful, very powerful. The magnets just in there will pick up 500 pounds. So they're scary strong. And they'll repulse 80 pounds. So,
wow.
So those are kind of cool. The problem is they're very susceptible to corrosion, and there's a lot of corrosion.
So that's the thing about the wind powers, there's always a moving element to it, so something that could wear down.
Well, that could wear out. These are on bearings that I've been playing around with the different bearings, and the bearings are lasting, even these bearings here, which are fairly inexpensive ones, they're lasting a year and a half. So that wouldn't be the end of the world. You'd have to replace a set of bearings at maybe $20 a set. So it's not that cost prohibitive.
Where are we going from here?
Well, initially this was for powering this house. It's gone beyond this now. I've had so much interest in these that I now teach classes at the college, VITEC, when they'll have me. And I've actually taught a class, a day class, and I've been honored to be able to do that. And the kids are excited. They come and they look at this and I show them the video and they're so excited about all this. And that's the key, is to get them excited and stop thinking that electricity comes from a wall plug, right? You know, and we don't know where that, the coal fire or the oil fire like that. This is free. This is what's given to us, and so let's use it. So some people say it's too windy where you live. That's the lemons, and this is the lemonade. So I think that this is really how we all should do. And I don't think that this is so out there that everybody couldn't have it, especially in this just makes sense. Every one of these houses could have this. So this is where I want to take it, and where hopefully we can put them out there, and they're going to be very, very inexpensive compared to solar. So if you have wind, this is the way to go.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG has been providing quality educational programs and services for over 40 years, serving students, teachers, parents, educators, and experts around the world and here in Hawaii. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, Improving Schools, Improving Education. CRDG.
Exploring Our Fluid Earth is a dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group, teaching ocean science concepts through the disciplines of physics, chemistry, biology, and ecology. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now available freely online. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.
Talofa, olo e mai mo mai le tautua le ala talua le KVZKTV, Pango America Samoa. You are watching KVZKTV Channel 2, Pango American Samoa.
O lo uaifo nei le seungalii I au whaiva manaia Amerika Samoa. Ma ua ngalo atu I uluvao le whetu o le apai sa malamangia ai o tupua tausi. O lo ua tuu sau noa foi le malae, ai anga I mai le alii o le pongi sa I lona taua fiafi. Ua manawa nei le toa alii, ai maeva le na afa, ma ua tau le upenga. Vala awa tuia I turu inga o le lalolangi ma le atu lau uma. O mai asa I o tātou ula afi ma whaafatai atu I le atua o malo. I lona anga le lei ma lona alofa. Ua e ma le manui ai whaiva ma whiau o le nei aso.
manatu o lea o whai i mole manuia ngā luenga sa tātou whengai ai i mare malama. Ao tātou wanga atu i whainga maro longa o le nei a fiafi. O sina upu e whaamawhanawhana i au tō whanga. O te whia whaitauina mai le tusi o alema i lona mata upu e tōres fulu mo le fitu. A o lona whai upu e tōres fulu mo le fitu. Whiriwhiri whaatasi male alii i au mea umu ai whai. Mā ole a ia tai oe e mole lei. I oe, pe a ta oto i lalo i le pō. I a ta oto i le rii. I la ia mawhai o na leo mai o ia i au lunga a o e moe. Mā e ala mai le tai au. Wa ia tuu lo loto i a tumu li whaftai le atua. Mā a whai e te whaia nei mea. O le asi ia e oe e le atua i le aso le ngata anga. O te manatu i le nei afiafi Amerika Samoa i lau whaafonga. O se waenga i fia whaatau aina le nei foitau. Ia whaataleina lo tātou whaafitai atu i le atua. Pe a tātou malei fua mai i whanonga le nei. Ia tātou whiriwhiri whaatasi male ali. O le amanuia ai mea uma tātou te whaia. O le a tātou te talo. Lo mātou te mai o le rangi. Mātou te mamori atu le whaafitai tele i lau o fio. I lau puipuinga ma lau leo ngā lofa i lungo lo mātou antunu o Amerika Samoa. A o rātou whenga iai whi au mga luenga o tiu te whai i to tonu o le malo o a inga manu. Mātou te whaafitai tele to mai lau puipuinga. O lau leo ngā lofa i lo rātou soifua mo lo mātou wola. Leo whai uai mole manuia mea umo le nei aso. Mātou te taro ta māwha mole mole. A o sa auni lo wantu nuu mai mātou umo e whai maro longa le nei pō. Mātou te taro sangaina lau puipuinga saunga le muia i ai li lungo mātou. I le ngata i o mātou te tai whale maro. Ai o mātou umalava o lau whanau. Mātou te ore atu wha mole mole ta mā. Ia wha manuia le nei atunu atoa. Mai ona tai se ia o mai ai mātou umalava. Mātou te ore mamana au nei wha amalianga umalava. E ala atu li suafa pa ia o lo alpele o Yesu Kirisu. Amen.
Talofa, olo e mai mo mai le tautua le ala talua le KVZKTV, Pangopango, Amerika Samoa. You are watching KVZKTV Channel 2, Pangopango, American Samoa.
E whaataro whaatu Amerika Samoa le nivanga le fiafi, ma alo whaftai le alofa malanga leo le atua, o lo o manu e peso tatou atunu. O le prokalama le neo manu o se tautu alo whale televisi o le KVZKTV, e awina tu e whaaringa ma alo, e kale e sia, nuu, o pisnisi tu mo oti, whamanu angos whanau, o sa awhiwhinga o maliu, mai sila vae nga fia whailo atu. O te tari tonu sa solonga leile ne yaso i whi au mga luenga, ai mese o tiu te whaiva sa whenga e tatou atunu. Malo whaftai whaatasi mai. Talo whalawa American Samoa, thank you for joining our manual program. It is time of the evening again. We give you public and government notices as well as funeral announcements, birthday greetings, and a whole lot more. Before that, let's have a look what's coming up on tonight's news. Onisi ne vaenga la awina tu telefon mo ni fiafi. I telefon le fiafi nei o le awina toi se saunoanga me le afionga ko wana sili I fai ungol paluta. Mai mo mai telefon le fiafi nei o le awina toi se atuanga I le sfainga leo I vai asoptea. Mai mo mai le fiafi nei la awina toi se vaenga tupe. Sa tauri maina e le matanga ruenga whainga whaiva mo le wau matua. Ai usi mai alo mai moa, o nisi neo whaasisilanga mo whai ona taunu mai le nei a fiafi.
Notice of intended action. The Office of Financial Institution intends to promulgate the administrative rule below, pursuant to the authority vested in the Office of Financial Institutions by American Samoa, Code Annotated Section 281203. In summary, these changes will create capital adequacy requirements for depository institutions doing business in American Samoa that are not insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or the National Credit Union Administration. Interested persons who wish to submit comments or request a hearing on this matter may submit comments in person to CV John R. Marsh, Commissioner Office of Financial Institutions at the Georgina Building, by email at john.marsh@tr.as.gov or by mail to Department of Treasury. Attention, Commissioner John Marsh, Executive Office Building, Pango Pango, American Samoa, 96799 by December 5th, 2022. Rule number 2022-0004, Title 28, Finance and Financial Institutions, Chapter 1, Capital Adequacy, 280101, Incorporation of FDIC, Capital Adequacy Regulations. Each depository institution doing business in American Samoa whose deposits are not insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or the National Credit Union Administration shall comply with the minimum capital requirements set forth in 12 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 324, applicable to an FDIC supervised institution as defined in 12 Code of Federal Regulations Section 3242 that has made the AOCI opt-out election under 12 Code of Federal Regulations Section 32422B2I. Each reference in the preceding sentence to a regulatory provision is deemed to be a reference to that provision as from time to time amended, re-promulgated, or substituted. Approved by CV John R. Marsh, Commissioner, Office of Financial Institutions.
To all the Marist Brothers Crusaders Alumni Association, we'll hold an emergency meeting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 15 at the home of Rita and Patricia Tautai in Nuuli, signed by Monsignor Vianney Itzwale. Ole afayas funtanga fafua se ita walava, ale associate sama toya maalisi ya November na nasos full lima. Ile lima la fiafi, e fayalea ile maota Rita ma Patricia in Nuuli. Usainiale nei faalinga Monsignor Vianney Itzwale. Onisi na o faasisilanga umafai ona o mai, tu whamanatu atu a whai eni whaaringa wha mole mole, o le asongofua, a solulu ma le sfereile, e au mina toa tātou whaasisilanga. Ai mai moa mai loa nisi neo whaamanianga soifua, umafai ona tāunu umai tātou prokalama le manuo. O whaamanianga nei mo le soifua i alua walu Yosua, wa atua leona duas futolu tau sanga i aso. Whaftai le tūro na tau singa mona na puipuinga i ati oe, o imawhai ei ona e au lia mai loa soifua i le so. Alo whaanga mai lau a inga I sa mua ma tunu umau. O le whamanianga nei mua mea tuai le asina, sa whamana tuina na na soi fuai le aso, whaftai le tuila na tau singa ia te oe, e me se whamanianga I le mawai lea mua oe. Ia tu maupea lea lofa ma whamanianga lea tua ia te oe maru a inga. Alo whaanga mai au mātua, e me se wa a inga umalava. O le whamanianga nei mo la soi fuai a nofo wa a tau sili, wa atua le na toris fulfitu tau sanga I le aso. O le talo ia sanga whamanu ia pēle atua mo wapoponi si tau sanga si tele, Ma ia maua pe o le ola man malusi e te tautua i fe au mga luenga le atua. Alo whaanga mai lau mana mea, whapea lau whanau, mau a inga uma ia tunu umau. Alo whaanga nei ma whamonianga mo le asu whanau le tari i a star sa tiu, whaftai le atua ina ua e mawhai ona e au lia mai le fitu au tausanga i le aso. Ia maua pea le ola malolo ina, ma ia e mana tua ina pea le atua ia wala uma. Alo whaanga mai au a inga uma lava, whapea siau tama ia olo sa tiu i New Zealand. O nisi nā alo whaanga whamonianga soifua, o mawhai ona taunu mai tatu prokalama le manuo. A o le pesele nei e mo le atua alo whaanga mo o tau uma lava, o whamana tuina o tau a soifua i le aso. Ia manu ia tau aso whanau, ia manu ia tau aso whanau, ia manu ia tau aso whanau. Ma wha manu ia ele atua. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you all. And may God bless you. Ia e mai ni whamanianga nā se tolu. Moi la tau umo whamanatuina na tua soifua. I lea so. Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip. O le atatu walu atu mo se maralonga pupu. A tutaliu mai ona e mai mo mai lea. I le sauninga whamanatuina se lau iwa se tausanga. Talo ona tau nuu mai le tala leile a whianga leoni. Ai le ngatai lea. O le awina atu fo se fo ia primary a le kalesia Yesu ke wiso au pa ia aso e ngatai. Mo tina mata mama tue fatua inga.
We pull you over for your safety. And for the safety of our loved ones, click it or ticket.
O se aso pa ia, o se tae au tutoa, o se tae au manino, a o se aso ta ua i le tala whaasolupito le atunuu. Le tae au na tau nuu ai le tala li lei lau whanua o le awhio anga o leone. O le nei sauninga sa whaia i le malu o le e kalesia whaapotuputonga Keusiano Amerika Samoa i leone, siona le maunga pa ia. E whaamanatu ina ai le se lau iwa se fulu tausanga. Talu o nā whea tūtuila, i le waalotu o le sāwali o le file mū, lea na tau nuu i lau whanua o le awhio anga o leone. Na matua whaatumulia le nei sauninga, e le ngata sa whaatasi ai le awhionga i le whaao le whainga māloa tūtuila mamanua, le awhionga i a le manu pa le poisi a le ngā maunga, ma le tinao le atunuu i a e la maunga, ai sa whaatasi atu ai foi, ma le awhionga i le presidente le mauta maualunga, le tō whai atu a olo mānai a fruen, ma le tausi a fia pai fruen. Whaapea fo i le fionga i le fonga whetalai, le tō whai le tau tō i a savali talavou ale, malona tausi. Sa whaapea fo i ona whaatu mulia i au nā le atua, ma i whata whai taulanga ese i Amerika Samoa. Whaapea ai ma le loa o le a fioanga. I le malai la loifi ma le whalesau ma le whale o māwaenga. E a fio ai le whaatu i o le motu, e a fio ai le malu o le whale, e susu ai ta mamatua ma vai o le tō. E a fio ai le ati ma o pū, e a fio ai ma ava, ai pui au ma fua manu e le whetalainga salavea ma salavea. O le taitai o le sauninga o le sui taitai fono a le ekalesia whaapotuputonga Keusiano i Amerika Samoa, le sunga i le whaifi auto e ina, ia whaetete sai foloi. O vi inga o le atua na saunia lava il au whai pese a siona o le maunga pa ia, a le e whaka a sai leone. O le fionga i le whaipule filifilia i a Fiu John Sailua o le taitai fono o le kalesia a le e whaka a sai leone na saunoa e tu sai o le wha moe o le aso.
Tupulanga o leone, tupulanga o tutuila mamanua. Avelo wola. Avelo wola. Ia ngā, e via e ai le tua. Tātou li i mal tātou whaola. Whapea upu mā vai Williamu ali tu ua le tātou nu. Male atu nu. O le atu tupu mai a te otou, ni o mea malolosi. E whaavai ai le kalesia, le nuu, le atu nuu, male malo.
O le sunga i le whaafiangainga ia Joseph Stowers mai le ekalesia le koluse pa ia i leone sa ngafa ma le whaita wino le afionga pa ia le atua. O le launga na saunua iai le whaafiangainga le sunga i le whaifi auto e ina ia Tony Hollister o le e whaka a sa matanga luenga tua lauta ma le asina.
Awa o le tala le leina, autu ai le ola ofo o soo a wina maponga iai le malanga mai a Williamu ma le au malanga. Mai Peretania e mais le a sae e le nei tama o amoamo le vasa lea. O lo tātou o mai whaatasi rai le nei aso le ausoe. E le o le aso, a o le mea na tupu i le aso. Ina ia tā ilo ai, whaalinga le atua, mō tātou wola e peifo i o nei loa e amoamo. Nangatai, le lango na ina o le talisuanga e keusiano i utaia o le kalesi korenito i le aso, malangona whaamalie whaalutata a ua misi, le atua na puapua ngā, e ala ilo na alo mamaliu, mō le whaolaina o le lalolangi, ai maise le whaafonga o le ola, e ta ele ai i alo tāo mai whaatasi.
O se vaenga le nei o le saunoanga le taitai o le sauninga, ma le sui taitai fono le e whaka a sa, le sunga i le whaafiangainga le whaifi auto e ina, ia wha e tete saifoloi.
Ai ma nei ai o le mea nai luma leone aua nei motusia lo ngafa i le tala le lei ia wha au au pea pa fefeo na fai ala le ma nei ai tala o nei tae wha ngalo le tuanai ai tātou momo e puna uai i le lumanai ma tau sisi ia maua whailonga, ua maua ai oe, na walawina e le atu. E ala i le keliso manu malo, e ou le ngā luenga. Le luitau lea leone, o nei e so ona mita e whamanatu lo waso. A ia whai se au ngā, aua, nei muta, lo ngafa i le tala le lei, ia whai o tau ma leone tā ua, mo atai au ma le lumana.
Sa saunia fo i le sauninga o le sakala meta o le whaamantunga, e whaamanatu mai ai pia ia i tātou uma ma le anganga whaaftai, le toe soifua manu malo mai o lo tātou ali i whaaola o Yesu Keriso, mai le oti ma le tuunga mau. I le vaiaso na te anei sa whaiai se whaamoemoe a le pango Samoa State Primary mō tina mata māma atutua i whatu a inga. O le whaatawa ina o le māsina o le aso whaaftai. Ma ua whaali ai o lātou o lo whaanga i tamama tina mātutua e ala i pese ai le ngata i lea o fuala au aina ma fuala au whaisua. O le nei whaamoemoe wa lewa na tāpena ai le pūlenga o le pango Samoa State Primary. O le tina ia whale ula Regina au e lua sapa. O ia lea o le taitai o le State Primary First Counselor, sa ia saunoa i le autu o lea whaamoemoe.
Because this month is the month of Thanksgiving, the Pango Samoa State Primary, ages 10 and 11, wanted to come and show their gratitude to the parents here that are representing American Samoa. And they wanted to share their talents through music, and they gave some of the fruit of the land to share their love with our parents because they've given so much to us already. So wanted to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Sa maua fo i le ava noa e sauno ai le tina ia au fata leota mō lea lava wha moe moe.
O le whamoemoenga nei, ua mawhai ona tāpena iai ia le pūlenga le primary a le Pango Samoa Stake. Ia ma whanau uma I unite taitasi. Ia ua mawhai ona awai mai nei la whaamoemoenga. I nei mawhai ona whatau nuu se tasi o fufuanga sa whataatia mai nei tausanga. I nei mawhai ona awai mai e tuina atu se au nanga foi e ala le pespesenga ia ma se asinga e tawala atu I le ai o whamoemoenga. Ia ina ia molimoli atu e foi o matou alofaanga I ia ila atou whapeona au mau nei no fuanga.
Sa whaia pese ngā whānau o le Pango Samoa Stake Primary e au alofa ai ma whaamanu I ai le aso whaaftai I ta mā tina mātutua uma o loo no nofo mau I te tonu o le anu fuanga.
And that concludes our manual program for this evening. Remember to give us a call at 633-2007 or email us at kvzkpsa@gmail.com for any announcement. Maorifai ungale nata to prokalamo le manual le ni fiafi. Manatua ia wala au mai le ono toltolu lua o fitu pe emaili mai foi le kvzkpsa@gmail.com o wani fasisilanga fie failo atu I le atunuu. E moli atu fo ilanga ngafaftai tele I kapania le Veni Pacific mo le saunio la e matangofie ma launlango malusi tato manuo le ni fiafi I manuia tele le neiva yaso ma I manu tele ina lo fasausaunga Amerika Samoa o au tautalaso isa ako kuka so faso ifua.
Blunt's Point was actually an interesting historical site that my son and his close friends introduced me to. One day they had learnt about Blunt's Point at school and wanted to go for a hike up the hill to Blunt's Point. So one afternoon in the weekend we actually went for a hike up and checked out the guns up there. Quite amazing sight. These things are huge.
It's actually Matautu Ridge. I think the Palangis call it Blunt's Point because it's kind of blunted on top. But the Samoan name for the place is Matautu Ridge.
Okay, we're at the Blunt's Point Naval Guns. It's a World War II site. It's on Mata Utu Ridge, and the Samoan name of the point is Tulu Tulu Point, and it's in American Samoa. It's just above the Pago Pago Harbor. The guns were placed here in order to protect Pago Harbor from invasion during World War II.
At that time, Pago Harbor was quite a strategic point, a point of refueling and stores for the soldiers that were in the area, protecting the Pacific Islands from the Japanese.
American Samoa was the biggest storage depot. This is why this harbor was so valuable, because it was from here that they moved everything out to the rest of the Pacific, you know?
What we learned was that the guns were originally from World War I, where they were on battleships.
And they were brought to American Samoa just before Pearl Harbor, and they were installed here. These guns are unique in the sense that they were two of four sets of guns in American Samoa during World War II. They were the largest defensive guns on the island.
I mean, at that point, we found out that they had these massive 6-inch shells that they would fire out of them out to sea at any potential threats from the Japanese Navy.
They could project shells that were approximately 6 inches in diameter with a range of just over 9 miles. The guns were brought here by the Marines, and they were installed by the Marines and contractors as well as Samoans.
They put them on this sled type thing, like a cable car on a sled, and pulled them up the mountain.
The way they were brought up was on a skidway, because there was no road up here at the time. And so there was a skidway that was actually, they didn't have steel rails at the time, so they used a Samoan hardwood called ifilele.
It's quite impressive when you look back at actually how they did it, a combination of American military and Samoan brute force got those things up the hill and got them positioned and got them in place to protect Pago Pago Harbor.
With a diesel engine that pulled them up using cable. And one of the interesting things is recently the American Samoa Historic Preservation Office has had a survey done, and we've located the approximate location of where that skidway was. We found the concrete anchors that held the steel cables, and we've even found one of the round pulleys that was left behind after the war. The guns were never used in anger. There was only one attack on American Samoa, and it was a submarine that surfaced on the other side of the island and shot shells over the island into Pago Harbor.
And when the Americans conquered the Japanese, they found all the papers, and what they found out that was after Guadalcanal to Solomon Islands, they were coming to Samoa next.
And the Japanese commander must have known either that the guns were here, or it was likely that there were large guns defending the harbor, and so he attacked from the other side of the island.
There was some potential threats in the area from the Japanese, and the Japanese did fire upon Pago Pago Harbor, but they seemed to, I don't know if it was instinct or some type of information or knowledge that they had received, that Pago Pago had two of these large weapons in place.
I don't recall too much, but I remember some of the important events. When we were bombed, we were shelled from this side, from over there. I said, I'm trying to think of the boat. I think it was a submarine, Japanese submarine. We get shelled, and most of the shells fell right in out there.
So the Japanese were lobbing shells from Whangasa into Whangatongo, and the only thing they hit was Shimasaki's store. The only Japanese living in American Samoa at the time, they hit Shimasaki's store.
One of our Samoan guys picked up a live shell that did not explode in there. He picked it up and carried it around. Yeah, everybody was running. Walking right there in front. The guy didn't know it was very dangerous. I was carrying it about this long.
The only time the guns were fired was for practice. And I've talked to old Samoans who were alive at the time, and they told me that they were incredibly loud. Another thing that's interesting about this site is the American Samoa Historic Preservation Office recently conducted an archaeological survey mapping in all of the features, the guns, but also other features that were associated with the site. And what we found was that the people that were manning the guns, they lived up here. And so there's concrete steps that go up into the jungle on two separate ridges. So there's a ridge that's associated with the lower gun, and on that ridge there's concrete foundations that were the foundations for barracks and probably mess halls and offices. And then there's another set of similar structures on the upper ridge. So the upper gun, the men stayed up on the upper ridge in the buildings up there, and we've documented all of that. And then with the lower gun, the men stayed on the lower ridge. This hadn't been known before, and so we're going to be using that information to write a report and an article about it, so the public and history scholars have a better idea of how the guns were manned, and we're also going to send that information to the National Register of Historic Places and update the National Register nomination. The guns are currently being maintained by the National Park Service, so they have a crew that comes up here and cuts the grass and maintains the trail to the second gun. They're also help with vandalism issues. There is a small amount of vandalism going on. The upper gun got spray painted. The upper gun is also flooded, and I've been in contact with the National Park Superintendent, and they have some pumps, and there's plans in the works to pump out the lower gun and clean out the drains and see if that can be maintained. In the year 2000, during the centennial for the territory, a Boy Scout did his Eagle Scout project, and he cleaned up the lower gun and cleaned out the gun emplacement and painted the gun. He also put up a monument to hold the plaque that indicates that Blunt's Point is a National Historic Landmark.
I was working for Governor Lutali when we went up there and it was filled with water and dead frogs, and so the Navy came down, Seabees, and they cleaned it out.
And during the centennial, the Navy sent a brigade of, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but he sent the Seabees, or a construction battalion, to do some volunteer work during the centennial, because American Samoa for 51 years was under naval administration control. The CB Construction Battalion put in access steps to the guns to make it easier for tourists and local visitors to get to the site.
Blunt's Point is a fantastic historical site that should be visited by a lot more people than I believe visit it on an annual basis. You know,
the guns stand in testament to the legacy of the veterans, both Samoan and and from the United States who helped defend these islands.
And sort of almost feeling that aura around the guns that existed back in World War II, and just imagining how, soldiers would have been stationed there and looking out the harbour mouth, and just waiting for any potential threat that could come along.
So what the people that manned this gun faced were guns that could shoot shells that were 18 inches in diameter, and their range was about 25 miles.
The gunners here couldn't respond because their range was only 9 miles.
So they would have to wait out that shelling. Once those invasion forces got in range, then these guns could start firing. To man these guns took a tremendous amount of courage for those veterans.
The significance of a historical site like that is huge. We have to preserve it in the sense that from generation to generation you must understand where the next generation came from for the existing generation to move forward and learn from other generations' mistakes potentially.
Well, it's part of our history. It's part of our history.
I think a lot of our younger generation don't appreciate what has happened in the past. Things like a world war are quite inconceivable in today's society, where you have wars in different areas, but it's not the whole world at war.
And the guns, as you know, are listed in the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. It's protected.
The site is an incredibly important site for American Samoan history. We hope that people will visit the site and enjoy the site, contemplate the legacy and the history that American Samoa and the United States have had together, and help to protect and preserve the site for future generations.
are things that we take for granted, like the customs we call our own, but they seem to gain more importance when you're far away from home. Our people touch the same ocean, though our country is quite unique. So as we share our ocean, it's understanding we seek. We are the people of the Pacific, and we've come from far and wide to share and gain experience, working side by side. We are the people of the Pacific. It's our part of the world. So as we learn together, our flag will be unfurled. Though the world still changes daily, we must learn to plan ahead. Peace and understanding is the path that we must tread. The Pacific is more than ocean, it's a beauty